This is the Voice of Early Childhood podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voice of Early Childhood podcast. My name is Angelica Solinska. I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Carmela Garcia-Manas, who is headmistress of Miss Daisy Chelsea and PhD researcher at the University of Dundee in Scotland. So Carmela has been on quite a few times because she has been talking about her research. It's been a research series where she's been sharing her study into education for social sustainability through socio-dramatic play. Lots of S's there. I've not really noticed before so much. So in this series so far, we've had 6 episodes, and this is the final episode on sense of belonging and connection in early childhood education, a pathway to social sustainability. So Carmela, thank you so much for coming on once again. This is the last time in the series, but I'm sure we will be hearing from you again. But it's really exciting to kind of have this final theme and then be able to round off all of the episodes that we've had previously with a bit of a conclusion of what what I guess you've taken from the research and what we can kind of take into practice. Really, really important for bridging that gap between academia, research, and practice, as we always talk about. So from your article, I can see that in your research, you've encountered instances of both exclusion and inclusion amongst children. So please do share this with us. I know you've got lots of case studies that you're going to talk through.
Yes. Hi, Angelica. Thank you very much for having me again. I'm very excited. I mean, I must say the very same at the start of every single episode, but I'm very excited to be here. I think this is a wonderful theme to end this series of podcasts sense of belonging and human connection is indeed a big part of what social sustainability is. So, and yes, at the very end, I will be touching in some conclusions and ending with some recommendations for educators and also for all of us as adults. And so to start with the topic sense of belonging, it's true that in the case study, I observed both exclusion and inclusion. And I must confess as well that this is a daily, this forms part of the daily routine of the children's peer culture. It forms part of the play. It is a play. They engage in play, and inevitably they go through instances of exclusion or inclusion. And indeed, there is a lot of literature on this. Literature shows that peer exclusion is not only a prominent worry for preschool children, but it's also frequently encountered in early childhood education settings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to quickly say, actually, when reading your article, I was quite almost like just taken aback from reading the sentence you've got that says, the reference sentence of peer exclusion is a major concern for preschool children. And like you just said, there's research that backs that up. And I kind of thought, wow, that's quite significant to read, the fact that it's preschool children and it is a major part of their lives already, and 3, 4, 5-year-olds. And when we think of exclusion, peer exclusion, often we think about older children and kind of going into the teenage years. So it's really interesting to understand how early this really begins.
Yeah, well, it starts from a very early age. I believe from the moment they are born. Children are born with this special connection to the mom. They leave their first home, let's say. And it's true that there is an author that I particularly enjoy reading articles and books from Paul Brownlee that talks about social needs. And it is true that as human beings, we all have these social needs of being connected to others. But this is especially or particularly important in early childhood education because children are still very dependent on others. We as adults, Angelica, may be more independent. We can feed ourselves. We can take care of ourselves and so on. But children still need other humans, other human beings to take care of them. And so there is also this survival dependency, this dependency for survival. And so, yes, and this happens every day. We may not notice as educators, because for us it may be a very tiny, small episode that we may even miss if we are not truly listening and observing children's play. But this happens constantly, and is also great to observe during power dynamics as well, and how it affects power dynamics. And I must also mention that the frequency of these encounters may have been also intensified by the nature of the social drama sessions, because what I presented was various scenarios where exclusion was intrinsic to the nature of the problems I presented. Yeah, like for example, in the first session, I'm not sure if you remember, Angelica, which is called No Money, No Shoes.
Yeah.
The role play and choose different type of jobs, and we had a chef, we had a builder, and so on. And then I called them to the circle area, and I distributed the salary unequally. I gave to those children that were wearing plain socks £2, and those who were wearing stripy socks, I gave them £1. And this, of course, although not as much as I thought, caused some protest against those children that were giving £1. And in a very quiet way, I must say, with sentences such as, "Excuse me, you only gave me one. Why did you give me one?" Because I am wearing stripy socks. But very quietly, I must say. And at this point, what the children with the stripy socks are experiencing somehow, due to this unequal distribution, is an instance of exclusion. Yeah, others are getting more, and I'm not getting enough, and this is because I am wearing, in that case, stripy socks. At the very same time, children are very resourceful, as we have explored in other episodes, Angelica. So this child look at the other child that was also wearing stripy socks and say, "Look, we match." So what we see here is the child that has just experienced that instance of exclusion finding a way to belong. Yeah. Perhaps by finding a friend with a matching item. So for the very same reason he was excluded from the group somehow, or given less salary, he also found, with that resourcefulness that characterizes preschool children, and that creativity, found a way to perhaps create his very own team. Okay, you have plain socks, you got more money, but you have to know that I also belong, and I belong to the stripy socks team. And it was this also shows us again that children are very resourceful, but also that these instances are particularly important to them. We were role playing in a scenario. The children knew that it wasn't true. We were just pretending, but still, these children needed that sense of belonging. No, that is incredibly important at this age. Notwithstanding, the day after, the very same child that was wearing stripy socks on that session that got £1 came to me early in the morning, the day after, and showed me his socks, the socks that he was wearing on that day, and he was wearing one plain sock and one stripy sock. Now, Angelica, I think we have talked about this particular case before. But how resourceful and how important it is for this child to really belong, and how resourceful for the child to go home, choose his socks, and perhaps not choose two plain socks. So he thought, because again, this is based on interpretation, but perhaps he thought, okay, I'm going to bring a plain sock, so the teacher can give me £2. I also belong to the plain socks team. but I'm also going to wear a stripy sock, so I can belong everywhere. I can belong to both teams, no? And I can get those 2 pounds, and very, very, very interesting. And
I was just going to say that they're not just seeking what they can gain in terms of the materialistic side of things, the money, but actually that sense of belonging is probably more important. And it just shows that they're seeking belonging. Like you said, naturally young children have that kind of social reliance to be looked after, and they seek out to belong somewhere.
Indeed. This case reflects their sensitivity to belonging within the group. Yes. And it aligns again to the fundamental social need to belong, as outlined by Brownlee, who is the author I was talking about. And yes, this is the child's attempt to seek acceptance from his peers to avoid potential exclusion, and from the adult that, again, this child is aware of, that the adult is who holds the power. So it's an attempt to seek acceptance somehow. And this also shows, again, that peer exclusion, as we mentioned before, is a significant concern for young children.
And it makes me think that if children really need that much, what did we call it? Like a sense of that social, they have that social need to belong that is stronger than later on in life. So if they don't receive that in early childhood, then that may affect them so much more in adulthood in terms of their sense of belonging in adulthood. So like if, like what you mentioned in the beginning, adults don't really have that need as much because they can look after themselves. So I guess this is a lot more kind of like psychology based rather than early childhood as such. But yeah, it makes me think of the different kind of triggers, traumas, personalities as well that develop, like more reliant, maybe more anxious.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. And yes, we are touching on different fields such as psychology, possibly as well sociology and so on. But yes, you are completely right. It's an incredibly crucial time where we have to make the most, also neuroscientifically speaking, where all these strong emotions are coming along, and we need to be able to somehow nurture them in a positive way by reinforcing and strengthening that social connection that they need more than in other stages in life. And this reminds me of a book that I read by one of my supervisors, my ex-supervisor, Alexa Barable, that talks about the importance, not only her, but other researchers in the field, talks about the importance of nature connection. And so I mentioned in my literature review that nature connection is as important as social connection. Yeah, we talk in her book. She talks about the importance of feeling connected to nature to develop that respect and care for it. And what I'm trying to also show in my thesis is that equally important is to develop that social connection with other human beings, with the social world, in order to be able to or to perhaps develop our respect and care for others. And ourselves, of course.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because often we talk about developing that connection to nature. So we take care of nature, so children understand that they need to take care of the planet. And like actually before the recording, we just mentioned the fact that sustainability is often seen in the simplistic way of just looking at the environmental side of things and not the bigger picture of the social and economic side of things that you're really looking into.
Indeed, that and again, very important hot topic in education for sustainability, nature connection, and how we have moved to cities and we don't spend as much time, and now there is still there's indeed an increase of on this is perhaps not fully relevant, but there is an increase, Angelica, in people buying houses in the outskirts of London and other cities where there's more nature and they can be more in contact with nature. Yes, there is a growing interest in in that. But again, it's very important, equally important to develop as well that social connection, because at the end of the day, we achieve more together, and we need to see ourselves as somehow in a very informal way flatmates, because again we share the same home, yeah, which is the planet. So it's not about only taking care of where we live. So the infrastructure, the nature, it is also taking care of the people who live in it. You know,
yes,
so, yeah.
and this kind of reminds me of the part in your article where you talk about the social justice or social injustice aspect. So your study really sheds light on those complex dynamics of peer interactions and the social inclusion. So really highlighting children's responses to exclusion in peer cultures involving complexities beyond ignorance, as you put it, out or surrender in cases of social injustice. So children don't just give up, or they don't just think, oh, I'm not being included, or if someone's not being included, it kind of goes over their head because they're maybe seen as too young. Actually, if we really delve into it, if we really observe children, we can see that there's a lot more going on there. They actually stand up for other children, don't they, in cases of exclusion and injustice.
Yes, and this goes partly in line with some literature, but also somehow reshapes literature in the field of exclusion. So there are authors such as Donna and others that observe that children typically faced with exclusion either walk away or abandon their attempts to join, like, oh, you don't want me to play, okay, I will leave. Or perhaps there's a conflict. It creates or conflict arises from these kind of situations. However, in my findings, what I witness is children persisting in their attempts to join other children's play. Like, for example, in the grand finale, session 10, we have another case where two children are in the £2 house, sorry, and another child comes by and say, can I come in? I have enough money. And then one of the children who is in the house modifies the norm of £2 and says, no, that's £2. This house now costs £5. And so this child who wanted to join the play is not about the house. The house also was incredibly small, so I don't think they will have fit, but wanted to join the play. His best friend was also there in the house and didn't have enough money. At the very same time, his best friend who was in the house perhaps didn't want to leave the house, didn't want to stop the play, the play he had started with the other child. So this child who was outside the house asked his best friend, can you swap the money with me so I can enter the house? And so, to his surprise, his friend answered to him, no, I cannot, because otherwise I cannot play. But I can tell you who has given me the money. And this is a clear response of a child looking for inclusion in the play, in other children's play. The other child using that resourcefulness that we have been talking about, that creativity, that critical thinking, asking the other child, can you swap the money with me so I can enter the house? And the other child responding no for fear of exclusion, perhaps. If you give me your money, then I won't be able to keep playing. So your inclusion may mean my exclusion from the play. So it's not going to happen. But because you are a very good friend and I care about you, I'm going to tell you who gave me the money. So you can also acquire it and join the play. Child chose not to perhaps react to the other friend saying, no, this house still costs £2, or this is not fair, or I want my friend to come in. Accepted the new norm that his friend created, at the same time gave clues to his best friend. And the child who wanted to join the play, instead of just walking away, such as other authors may propose or suggest in their studies, what he did was to go to the cash machine where there were other children and ask for more money. Interestingly, there was no more money. The shop was closed at that moment. So, but the child who was playing the role of the cashier gave him a paper and a pen, and he said, "You can draw money." So this child persisted as well, drew a number on the paper, the number 5, which is the amount he needed, went back to the house and said, "Look, I have 5 now." And he joined the children's play, his friends' play. So there were 3 now. They were all together enjoying the play. So this shows several things. This shows that the play is quite complex, perhaps more complex than we can sometimes think of. Second, that again, that creativity, critical thinking skills, negotiation, resourcefulness are incredibly important in social issues and in topics such as exclusion and inclusion. And also that children do not necessarily walk away or abandon their attempts to join in all this play. They are determined, they are persistent, and they try, and they keep trying, and they look for other possible solutions so they can actually join.
And we really, I was going to say, we really need to encourage that and almost like celebrate that as educators, I think, because that kind of resourcefulness and persistence is something that we look in terms of look up to in terms of those life skills. And I know we talked about life skills previously. It is so important to be able to not discourage children from, away from that, and say, almost like give them solutions. So I'm just thinking in terms of what can educators take away from this of, how can we support children to not only feel included, but also be citizens in society that have inclusive practices, but then at the same time stand up for themselves and show their own agency and voice. And I think it's about, we often as adults try and solve problems for children, and say, "Oh, why don't you let them join in? Let's play together. Let's do this. Let's do that." Actually, step back and let them resolve their own conflicts. And like you just shared with us here, children have such resourcefulness, and they have lots of interesting kind of ways of coming up with different solutions and negotiating as well, and problem solving. And that's just exactly what we want them to achieve, those kind of skills. That's the characteristics of effective learning that we talk about, isn't it? Hiya! Just quickly, I wanted to ask a favour from all of the listeners and viewers. It would really help this podcast if you subscribe on the platform you are listening or watching on. This will help the Voice of Early Childhood podcast to continue putting out thought-provoking and reflective episodes with a range of guests. And if you are enjoying listening to this podcast, please do share it with someone else who you think would love it too. And of course, as always, we encourage you to share your voice too. If you have reflections, thoughts, and comments, please do share this episode on social media with your comments and tag the Voice of Early Childhood. Let's keep these thought-provoking discussions going. Thank you. I'll let you get back to the episode now.
Yes, Angelica. As you say, it is part of the EYFS, and you mentioned characteristics of effective learning with active learning, and yes, it's very important for us as educators to be able to provide them with different opportunities for them to develop these skills, and also perhaps sometimes what we tend to do when we witness an episode of exclusion is just to immediately intervene and give them their answer rather than make them think or reflect on what is happening and how the other child may feel and how do they feel and what the consequences may be. And I think that's what we need to do with children as well, to sit down and reflect with them and talk and discuss and listen to them as well and to reflect.
And ask them questions and not just tell them what to do, not just say, allow another child to join in your play, but why are they not allowing them to join? And I guess these questions open up conversations, like we say, and it also models curiosity. So the adult modeling that for the children, and then they would hopefully take that up as well. So modeling curiosity over judgment. I think that's really, really important.
Really, really important, and that's how children learn, and that's how we all learn. Yeah, we don't learn by being criticized or being told what to do. We learn by developing our own answers with someone's help. Yeah, someone
Mhm.
acting as a guide. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, this reminds me of, we're often linking theory to practice, and I'm working with students on linking theory to practice. And when you said, we have someone acting as a guide, reminds me of Vygotsky's principle of the zone of proximal development, and that's exactly what we're talking about here now. It's exactly that, scaffolding children's learning and kind of stepping in if we feel like we could add something, and certainly not close down the situation and make everything super easy and peaceful for the children. Actually, that's taken away learning.
That's taking away learning and the most important lessons in life.
Mm.
Especially nowadays, in the world that we are at now, and the future that awaits us. So yes, I completely agree with you. I think we are taking away the most important lessons and the most valuable opportunities away from them. So that's why it's very important to just sit and ask this, sit in front of them, look at their eyes, and ask them questions, because they can answer to you, Angelica. They have very valid points. They can express themselves, and if not, well, we know that they cannot, and then we help them to perhaps express themselves better in different ways, so we can learn more about them. Is every child is unique. This is say in the UFS. This is say
Mm-hmm.
the rights quality right act. Say it in so many official documents, but sometimes it's difficult to see every child as unique, and every child is different. Every child is unique, and there are different stages in life that perhaps might not be entirely related, associated with their age, because again they have their own pace and developmental, and they are in different developmental stages, and we are there to support that and to get to know them as well. I think this is really important for us to try to really get to know them, because sometimes, especially with children that are incredibly young, it's quite challenging for educators to know what children want or need, um, or that why, as they can not
Mm-hmm.
get answer to those questions. So let's get to know the children really well. Let's sit down with
Mm-hmm.
them. Let's observe. Let's explore. Let's ask questions. Let's try to develop that self awareness, so they can get to know who they are, but also we can get to know who they are. Yeah,
Mm.
to
And
better
that,
support them.
yeah, definitely really brings out, what exactly what we're talking about, that sense of belonging. Because if we take time to get to know the children and they feel like we are interested in them and we truly, truly know and understand them, and vice versa, then there is that sense of belonging and obviously inclusion.
Yes, that there is that sense of belonging, and not only within the peer culture, but also with the adults. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we hold different positions in the world, but it's still incredibly important. Again, they are dependent somehow on in the adult for their to cover the basic needs. So it is very important that the relationship between the adult and the child is a very positive, transparent, and honest relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and that the adult as well has the right mindset, and is open to that mutual transformation that we talk about in
Mm-hmm.
the first episode. Not to only teach or guide the child, but also be ready to learn, because you are going to learn a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We always learn so much from children. Um, so, so that's your sixth theme. Is that right? That we're discussing now? Yes,
This is
sense of belonging.
mhm.
And so I just wanted to do a kind of quick recap on all of the themes, if that's okay, in
Mhm.
terms of just kind of, well, I'll just read them out, and then I think it would be interesting to hear maybe some more links between them, or maybe some more kind of conclusive, I guess, key takeaways from all of them. Because in every single episode, we've discussed each individual theme, and things that we can take away. So there must be more general key takeaways from your research. After all, it has been quite a few years that you've been doing it for. So there's been a lot of data gathered, a lot of findings, a lot of analysing. So just to quickly go through the themes as a recap. So the first theme was around children's perceptions of poverty and race. And then we have theme 2, which is possession as a form of power. Theme 3, social norms and subordination. And that really looked into the impact and power of the adult on children's actions, behaviours around social sustainability. Theme 4, essential tools for social sustainability. So we discussed 3 main tools or skills children have shown throughout the research that are important for social sustainability. And theme 5 was perceiving fairness as an act of sharing. So really looking at equality and equity and fairness beyond the act of kindness. And now we're discussing sense of belonging as theme 6, exclusion and inclusion. So a lot of links there between all of them. So a lot around inclusion and around fairness and power dynamics is another big thing. So like we can really see how they all intertwine very much so.
And that's the beautiful side of doing a PhD, Angelica, in case one day you want to join the boat. But yes, that's the beauty of it, when at the very end everything intertwines and beautifully. But yes, we had my main goal when I started with this research was to prove into children's perceptions, so get to know more how children perceive social issues. Mm-hmm. Because again, most of the studies or literature studies done have been on children rather than with them. So I wanted children to be co-researchers with me in this case a study, because at the end of the day, what I needed to find out is how they perceive the world. I wanted them to tell me the story, somehow. Mm-hmm. And this was done through social drama that served as a pedagogical tool and has proved to be quite a powerful one, because I've been able to explore different social scenarios with children that otherwise they might not be exposed to, and in a safe and happy environment. At all times, knowing that we were role playing, that there is no water left in the school, or that they can have the pair of shoes and go home wearing the shoes and so on, and eat as much fruit as they want. So this was very important, and social dramatic play has been recognized as a powerful educational tool to provide young children with a safer space to explore this socioeconomic injustice, say. What I have also found at the very end is that this approach also allowed children to critically analyze and question biased conceptions and context and systems that shape their lives, and has fostered a deeper understanding of the world around them, and most importantly, giving them a voice. I'm not sure, Angelica, if we come back to session 1, we could see how children, a few of them will protest very quietly, and in the grand finale, we see children speaking out for each other and showing an incredible prosocial behavior with others, not only with their closest friends. This is another takeaway that I think is incredibly important. And also that children need, in today's society, from a very early age, to acquire the ability to recognize injustices in their environment. And for that, they need exposure. And they need this in order to develop the necessary skills to address them in the future, in their closer, or experiment any kind of situation that we have seen in or role play in the social drama sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these 3 principles that I will share with you that this article revolves around. The first one is that early childhood education possesses the power to influence and imbalance adult society. So it's not only about giving the children the tools and a voice, but also seeing children as capable contributors to the social world. And as I said before, having this positive mindset and this openness, and see young children not only as receivers or receptors, but also as emitters, as creators of knowledge, experiences, and thoughts and perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Then
the belief that children's rights should permeate all aspects of our social fabric. And then lastly, the recognition that addressing a single injustice concerning children inevitably gives rise to a multitude of intricate complexities, which have proved to be in need of deeper examination as well. So we have, for example, covered topics, and this is part of my personal reflection. We have covered topics such as poverty. We're talking about very complex concepts.
Mm-hmm.
I myself not qualified enough or trained enough on it to be able to teach or share or explore. And this is something that, of course, I've realized through the sessions. And it is very difficult with young children, because if I explore poverty, I have to go deeper on the topic. Mm-hmm. And for that, I need training and knowledge. And we are talking about, again, vast, wide, complex issues that the children need to learn of, but I myself as educator need training on as well to be able to help children develop their understanding on these topics. The same happened with equality and equity, and the difference between equality and equity. Again, training is very much needed.
I remember, I was going to say, remember we talked about this in the first episode, I believe, or maybe even a few of the others episodes, how vital training is for educators around these topics, because they are so complex. And I remember saying that you are the expert in this since you're doing the research, but actually, as you said now, even you feel like you need a lot more training. You may be the expert in the particular research that you are doing, but it opens up so many different avenues, doesn't it? Like you just shared.
Indeed. And also, sometimes I believe during the program that, my actions or what I was doing was for the best, always thinking on the children. But in order to be able to do the best for them, you first need to know them. You first need to know, what the perspectives are, and what they need as well. This is very difficult because as educators, we are giving a cohort of children in September. We don't know them, but we have to start from the first day to just decide what is best for them. And this happens to all of us. So I think that's why coming back is very important, to listen attentively and actively. And this may require sometimes to also take away our voice somehow and be silent and just ask questions to the children. What I said before to you before we started recording, we cannot give children a voice without taking it first away from ourselves, from us adults. So yes.
That's a really interesting way to put it. We have to firstly take a step back as adults and not give ourselves that much I guess that much voice, that much power perhaps, in order to be able to give it to the children. I guess it's almost like we have to give it up, we have to share it with the children. There isn't enough for everyone, almost kind of seeing it like that. We need to give some up. We can't take 100% of it.
Exactly, we cannot take it all, and sometimes, especially in traditional old models, but it's still it's happening nowadays, where the role of the teacher is imparting knowledge. Yeah. Well, we have to see ourselves as educators. We have to see our roles as those roles that extend beyond imparting knowledge. Yeah, and being able to provide children with those experiences to foster the critical understanding of the world around them, and important life skills, as we mentioned, such as compassion and especially strengthening that human connection that we were talking in at the start of this episode. Yeah. Cultivating compassion and strengthening that human connection, breaking down divisions in society that label some as others and others as us, and because ultimately there is only us, and our differences what contributes to our collective richness. No, as I said as well in episode 1, in the first podcast. Yeah. So yes, my as I said at the start, my quite ambitious aim was to foster a more compassionate society, whilst advocating for the rightful place of young children as active and capable contributors to the wider world. And what I have learned is that they are capable contributors. They are curious. They are inquisitive. They want to know more. They are not scared. They want to be able to find solutions to those problems. They want to be able to speak out. They want to be able to understand, and they want to be taken into account. And they definitely have that understanding, or that level of understanding, or capacity of understanding complex issues that we believe is going to affect them in the future, but is affecting them in their daily lives, such as, for example, exclusion and inclusion, as we see one of the main concerns. And then I have some recommendations based on the findings, Angelica, if you would like me to share them with you.
Yeah, definitely goes back to what we were saying earlier about really kind of bridging that gap between academia and practice, and really thinking, I was going to say, actually, before you said this, there's already so many snippets here to reflect on and take away, but also a few practical things that we've discussed in terms of what educators can do in terms of, promoting more inclusion in the classroom and taking that step back. They're all kind of things that we can reflect on, but also practically do in the setting. But yeah, hearing more would be brilliant.
Yeah, well, the first recommendation is actually what I just mentioned. That's why perhaps I thought of recommendations. I must confess, Angelica, they are not very specific. They are quite generic. But again, this is quite a different case study compared to previous research in social sustainability, which is very limited, especially in early childhood education. And there is more need. There's more need for more research with children in social sustainability. But at the moment, my recommendation on this point will be to what I just said, acknowledge children's ability to understand complex concepts related to social and economic issues, because they are already present in their own reality, and providing them opportunities for them to activate, to be active participants and action takers in addressing these issues. And this is not only about reflecting and sitting down with them, but also asking them questions, and most importantly, taking a step back and listen attentively, to take into account, and perhaps, again, have that openness and the children do have because of their age, and that's one of the beauties of early childhood. Be open to different possible solutions, because there is never one single solution to a problem. There are more, and our children, the children in this research have shown that. Yeah, for example, if you remember, Angelica, that child that say, why don't we swap the pool with the rich people, so the poor people can have a house for a little while? And so, again, provide them opportunities and take into account and give their solutions as valid, because if they are valid to them, why not to us? No? And also, the second one would be to support children in developing a sense of fairness and diversity. This is two very important concepts, the sense of fairness and diversity. And this could be done by providing adult guidance and, again, creating opportunities for their exploration. So rather than not mentioning or talking about diversity or social injustice, open the subject with the children in an age-appropriate manner.
Mm-hmm.
Put it there. Perhaps through storybooks. We have wonderful storybooks that have been published in the last 5 years, such as People Need People, My Name is Not Refugee. Amazing storybooks that talk about different social issues. And storybooks have proved to be very powerful. They make children think in an age-appropriate manner, and is perfect to open a discussion on different matters.
Mm-hmm. And that's I was just going to quickly say that's a lot of what your study involved, isn't it? You know, each session was a book, wasn't it? And that's what kind of sparked the scenario.
Exactly. Some of the storybooks were read at the start of the session, just to as a warm up, which is very common in social drama. And some others were read at the end of the session as a form of reflection. But yes, incredibly powerful, very good books as well, Angelica. I have found so many good books that have been published in the last 5 years about all kinds of topics that children really enjoy reading and discussing. And I think we should make the most of the resources we do have as well. There are great authors out there, so let's make the most of it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree.
And then the third recommendation will be to acknowledge, and this is very important. Sometimes it's not only being aware, not only knowing, but also acknowledging that the power dynamics exist in preschool societies, where adults, as adults, we hold a high degree of influence and power. And so we should acknowledge these and be aware and strive to mitigate the possible negative impact that this can have on the children. And this we talked about, I believe, last episode or 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, maybe a couple of episodes ago.
But yes, it is very important for adults in early years education to understand the extent of this power, and influence, and perhaps work towards mitigating negative outcomes. We spoke about children perhaps not sharing their thoughts, or fear of being excluded, or not being accepted, or not feeling accepted, or fear of saying something wrong. And the children need to have a voice, and we need to empower them. And sometimes is in their nature, is inherent to them, for them to push boundaries and limitations. But it's also for us to sit down and talk to them and understand their points. Yeah, it's not like we are always right because we are the adults. Yes, Angelica.
For sure.
As well. We are not always right because we are the adults, and yes, so it's important to strive to create a supportive and secondary, I would say, role for the adults, right, rather than an authoritative one.
Definitely posing children and adults as co-constructors of knowledge, or co-researchers, as you may kind of say in research specifically.
It's true. And we have seen that it has had a negative impact in certain instances, in certain social drama sessions, where I decided as researcher what the scenario was. The scenario was unjust by nature, and the children perhaps didn't protest against it until I left the room, or until they had the chance to role play themselves without any kind of adult involvement. So again, it's very important to be aware of it and try to mitigate the negative impact that it may have.
And no, go on, you go.
No, you go. I was going to, it's just 2 more. I mean, Angelica, if it was for me, we will be talking for a while, but just 2 more points left. One is related to social drama. I have to mention that, using social drama has been an excellent tool to help children develop techniques and important skills. The children have seen at the very end of the program that have developed different skills such as empathy and compassion towards each other. They have also expanded their friendships, and I have seen a more united group has developed the cohesion of the group as well. So it's been proved to be quite a powerful tool. So I will always recommend a social dramatic play or role play, dramatic play, any form of protection as a tool to perhaps explore complex issues. And the fifth one, which is to recognize that your children are aware, either consciously or subconsciously, of their vulnerability and dependence on others to survive. So they have a strong sensitivity to group membership and sense of belonging. We are aware of it. They are aware of it. And so therefore, their actions, their behaviors, their words may also be based on this need, on this social need to belong. And we have to understand that this necessary dependency influences the decisions, but also be mindful that this power dynamic and strive to create a more equitable and empowering environment for young children. And this is quite this is the last recommendation that I will give. This last one is quite a powerful one because I feel like children sometimes make decisions, and so not only young children, but also in primary and secondary, and adults, we make decisions based on the social need, and sometimes we may make a decision, or we may decide to do something that we may believe that is wrong, but we know is going to somehow cover temporarily, if not permanently, in the most optimistic case, that social need of belonging. So I'm not sure if I expressed myself well there, Angelica. And so children have, as we mentioned before, this social need to belong is incredibly strong at their age because of the dependence on adults for survival, and it's very important for us to be aware of it and strive to create an equitable classroom and environment and a peer culture.
Well, I was going to say, like, before you even kind of went into the last few that were really quite deep, I guess, there's a lot to reflect on with all of the kind of the key messages, key takeaways there. There's so much that isn't, like we were saying, like practical takeaways are always great, but actually it's a bit like what you were saying in terms of, the way that we learn is through reflection. And I always talk about this as well. And it's not by being told what to do or criticized. You need to reflect on it yourself and come to a conclusion. And I think that's the same for adults as well as children. And with takeaways from your research, it's not just about these are the findings and this is what we can take practically into the classroom. And these are like the steps we can take. Actually, it's more about the deeper reflections and then connecting everything to yourself as the educator, the children that you're working with, the community you're in. So I think so many of those things that you mentioned, especially at the end there, are very much kind of open to so much deeper reflection for educators.
Yeah, and it's very important to never give up as well. Because sometimes it's difficult, because sometimes we will find difficult, I would say challenging, and we might find quite challenging for us to perhaps talk and reflect with children in a level that is age appropriate, but also that they can understand. But as I would say, never give up. Children understand. Maybe you just haven't found a way yet. Just keep trying. find different ways, find different strategies. The children can do it. You just have to find a way, and you have to believe in it.
That really reminds me of what Loris Malguzzi from the Reggio Emilia approach says, about children having 100 languages, and you may just be perhaps using the wrong language, especially with young children who don't have haven't developed their spoken language yet so fluently or fully. So it's definitely so many different ways in which you can communicate with children, and kind of goes back to the whole point of your research around sociodramatic play and making sure that you can address these issues through that tool, and it's not just you relying on that spoken communication between the children, written, or there's obviously a lot of other inclusive methods, but this is sociodramatic play really seems like there's a lot involved there, that so many children can kind of interact in different ways, whether they are communicating verbally or in writing or drawing or not. They can kind of choose to, I guess, engage or not engage in the play in different ways. It's just almost like this is part of this pedagogical tool, is almost just part of practice anyway. And then there's that aspect of role play that you kind of involve through bringing it into context around a certain scenario. But it's just something that they're familiar with, and that happens all the time, right? They naturally role play.
Yeah, they naturally role play. And also I believe that role play, any kind of form of role play, is also very inclusive, as you say, not only for children that perhaps have developed that spoken language that you talk about. And again, young children, we have to be aware that young children develop their understanding of language much before they can say their first words. Yeah. So they understand much more that they can perhaps express. But again, role play, any form of role play, give every child the chance to express themselves in different ways, either through body language, spoken language, or just ways of props, gestures, touch, smiles, and just how they look at each other. And again, it's a very powerful tool, not only because you are able to bring different scenarios that the children may not have been exposed to otherwise, but also because every child is able to engage in it. Every child can engage and can express their voices without that adult guidance, constant adult guidance, or sometimes directions. Yeah. It gives them the freedom as well to pretend, to decide, to talk, to choose not to, and so on.
And I love that a lot of the time throughout the episode as well, you mentioned guidance rather than teaching. And that's a big key message as well to take away. We talked a lot about the adults stepping back and observing and listening, and that giving children agency and space and a sense of, I guess, that sense of belonging that we talked about earlier, in terms of, thinking I also have a voice here, rather than the adult being the authority. So I think, the use of the word guidance is important here.
And also, I try to ask my children, I'm not teaching anymore, but I try to pick in from time to time. And I always encourage children to ask the same questions that we do ask to each other. Like, for example, a child will come to me and say, oh, this child is sad. I say, oh, what can we do about it? What do you think it happened? Would you like to ask it? Rather than me going and asking the child, to develop this united community where not only the teacher takes the lead, but also the children. The children will learn how to take the lead. It could be it doesn't have to be in phonics or maths. It could be in social skills, such as asking how you are and helping each other.
And that really is promoting more of an equal and inclusive society, isn't it? Because then you're promoting that amongst different ages, really. That's what it is.
Yes, and different ages. Again, we do vertical learning as well. So there are different stages, like you can see the difference between ages at that point, but also adults and children as well. And it creates a very positive environment, not only within children, but also between children and teachers. The teachers then observe how a child has asked each other how are you? Why are you sad? What can I do to help? And this has also an impact on the teachers that witness this as well. And we all learn again. We all learned, and we always focus in. We are a role model for the children. The children can also be role models for us. And I have learned so many things with them, and I would say that's one of the main reasons why I enjoy spending a little bit of time as much as I can with them. So because I learn a lot.
The thing that I was going to mention earlier, actually, it was lifelong learning, and that's what reminded me of what you were saying in terms of learning from the children and not always having the answers, and not always having, as the adult, having the correct answers. It's all about having that mindset as an adult of lifelong learning, that we can learn, like you say, from children, and we're always learning, and it's not just, we impart knowledge on the children as educators.
That flexibility as well. Yeah, I always try to imagine the brains as if we had Play-Doh in our hands, Play-Doh in earlier settings. So this is something that a lot of people will resonate with, but it's like Play-Doh. Yeah, we as educators, as adults, as human beings, we learn, we adapt, we change, we transform, we relearn, we forget as well.
Yeah.
And so we are actually also building ourselves, our own selves. And so the same with the children. Yeah, it's like this brain is the Play-Doh. They need to trial error. We need to also make sure that there is not just one correct answer to a problem. There might be different solutions, and all those things. I'm moving a lot of my hands as if I was using
as
Play-Doh.
If you're using Play-Doh, yeah.
Using Play-Doh, but I always try to imagine our brains as Play-Doh, that it can be transformed at any point if needed, and it needs to go through that process to grow and continue.
Constantly developing. Well, there's certainly a lot for educators listening to take away from this episode and reflect on. Practical aspects, like I said earlier, but also so many reflections. So and that's what the entire series has, but this episode in particular, I feel like, as it is concluding, it does have so many takeaways naturally. So yeah, thank you, Carmela, very much for sharing all of your research over the last few weeks. And for all of the listeners and viewers, the entire series can be found on the Voice of Early Childhood website, along with Carmela's articles as well. And the link is in this episode description. You can also, of course, search for the Voice of Early Childhood on podcast streaming platforms or on YouTube. So thank you for all of the listeners for tuning in. And again, thank you, Carmela, for sharing your research over the last few weeks. It'll be exciting to see where this research takes you upon further unpicking of the findings and future publishing and work. I know you'll keep kind of, even when you submit your work and kind of wrap it all up, there's probably going to be elements of looking back at the findings and bringing them out and maybe publishing some other pieces of work and discussing them and looking at all the different kind of directions it can go in. So that's exciting.
That's very exciting indeed. Let's first submit, and then we'll think about the rest. But thank you very much to all of you who are listening on the other side, and to you, Angelica, for giving me this opportunity. It's been amazing. I had very interesting chats and discussions with you, not only during the podcast, but also before and after.
Constant reflections and unpicking things.
And this has also helped me a lot, not only professionally to reflect on my thesis and my work, but also personally as well. So thank you very much, Angelica, for the opportunity, and to the Voice of Early Childhood as well.
I'm so glad to hear that. We always talk about the fact that, if you have conversations and reflections with someone else and with different people, then it really helps you to come up with new ideas, new knowledge. And I guess what we were saying about kind of changing, like your brain being malleable and flexible and developing your thoughts and coming up with new reflections, and I guess like digesting everything in your brain so it doesn't just kind of sit on its own there and you are the only person that that reflects on it yourself. Reflecting with others is so helpful. So I'm really glad to hear that it was so useful, and good luck with your submission. And we will no doubt hear from you again.
Thank you, Angelica.